A long time ago, in around 2004, I was an extra in a Harry Potter film, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. That's the fourth one. And it was a great experience. The life of an extra isn't that glamorous though, to be honest. I was 12, going on 13. So, in the morning I'd go to this sort of acting school I was part of. About 6 in the morning, so this is, in November, so still very much dark. And wait, get on a coach, go to Leavesden Studios in Hertfordshire, it's near London. It's where the Warner Brothers studio is now, actually, the studio tour. And we get there, then went and got changed and start the day. And of course, as I was 12, we had to have tutors, and they're basically people who were paid to sit behind a desk at the front of these little porter cabins and force us to do the work which our schools had provided for us. I was pretty good at asking the schools not to provide me work, or not asking the schools to provide me work, so I didn't really do anything. I still managed to get to university though. When extras were needed, they'd line us up and call us out by number. I remember being held in, well, extras are just held in big pens really, big rooms full of crates of Ribena and crisps, nice. Then you got free breakfast and free food and free lunch and free dinner if you're there that late. That was great. But there was endless hours of hanging about. I did get a line in one of the films though. I had the honour of saying Cedric Ghouls, look out, watch Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. And just after he's found out about the dragons, in the first task, and he's going to go and tell Cedric Diggory about the dragons, he's walking on the corridor and everyone's being nasty to him because he's the fourth champion, and this little runt of a kid runs by and says, Cedric Ghouls! And I think Harry Potter actually sort of sarcastically says thanks to me as I go by. But that's me! A little bit shorter, I haven't really grown that much. I wouldn't have, because I'm still tiny. It's quite funny and quite a pity really, because for that scene where I ran by him and said Cedric Ghouls, just before we began shooting, I was standing very, very close to him, and I remember at one point he actually looked at me, and, had I not been a 12-year-old, shy little, well, socially awkward boy, I might have actually said hello, but I didn't. So yeah, that's how close I got to Harry Potter, and I never even struck up a friendship. Who knows? Dan Radcliffe and I could have been best buds by now, but it wasn't to be. So yeah, I can say I've done some interesting things, seen some interesting things. For instance, the set for the first challenge of the Triwizard Tournament, a 360-degree stadium. Except it wasn't 360 degrees, it was 180 degrees, and they digitally enhanced it to make it look like a circle. Dragon, of course, was a man with a big stick with a model on the end. Brilliant. Okay, here's the thing. I've seen this thing on an internet meme before. The Marauders map that Fred and George have, and they seize people? Well, I've seen this, and this thing did point it out. How come they never noticed that Ron was sleeping with Peter Pettigrew? Because it's already been established that it shows people who can turn into animals as who they actually are. So, do they just think their 11-year-old brother had come out suddenly without telling anyone, and was sleeping with a man called Peter, who a quick bit of research would have shown that this man was actually dead? So, was Ron actually coming out as a homosexual necrophile? There's so much that J.K. Rowling has just left for the viewer, or the reader, to think about. So yeah, necrophilia as an 11-year-old boy. Well, each to their own. Over the Christmas holidays, I started reading this book about Harry Potter and philosophy, and it was actually really, really interesting. I didn't finish it, sadly, but it discusses popular philosophical ideas. It's not heavy, and they relate it to real life. They relate it to characters in Harry Potter and events and storylines. So, don't be afraid it's going to be all heavy stuff, because it's quite relatable. And I found it really interesting. Brings me along to the point that there are quite a few very interesting themes in Harry Potter. And, it's not all just about fantasy and magic. One of the things I often wish I could do one day, maybe one day, it'd help if I was a better writer though, would be to write a book. And I would call this book The 10 Mistakes that Voldemort Made. It would be 10 mistakes, because he probably made more than 10. But, you know, things that Voldemort did that brought around his own downfall, because 3/4 of the things that Voldemort did to himself, that sounds wrong, 3/4 of the reasons Voldemort ended, or his downfall came, was due to him. And one of these was his arrogance, particularly to house elves, for instance. He took a house elf along to test the defences of his Horcrux, the locket on the island. He put an anti-disapparation jinx on the island, which wizards wouldn't be able to escape from. He didn't think that house elves would be able to escape, so the house elf did escape, alerted his master, and, you know, a whole chain of things happened. Idiot Voldemort, again. There are plenty of examples, but I'm not going to tell you them because you have to read my book when it's published, in about 2030. Here's another thing. How does the economy in the Harry Potter world work? Who pays people? I mean, is there more than one bank than Gringotts? Is it fair to let goblins have a monopoly on everything financial? Do people who work at the ministry get paid monthly? By cheque? Backs? Direct transfer? Cash on hand? Who knows? So many things. I mean, how much does Arthur Weasley get paid? You know, it can't be much, because, you know, it's often said. I mean, you know, do you get a doubling of the number of gallons you earn every time you get promotion? But yeah, I've read the books millions of times, and it's just one of those things that I'm always gonna love talking about. And raising discussions about Harry Potter, you know, so many things you can talk about. Who was better, Richard Harris or Michael Gambon? I've got a quick answer to that. I think they're both good. I think they're better at different things. I think Richard Harris is better at, you know, the calm, explaining science of things. Richard Harris was Dumbledore in the first 2 films, by the way. And, you know, at the end of the first 2 films, Dumbledore has a sit down with Harry and explains calmly and slowly what's happened, why it happened, you know, and did a pretty good job. Michael Gambon, on the other hand, didn't really do the explaining side of things that much. He did the fighting side of things, and I thought he did a pretty good fight. What I couldn't imagine Richard Harris doing was engaging in battle with Voldemort. Weird to say, I just don't think that'd work. Here's another question for you. The events of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, in the chronological order of things, are supposed to start in 1991. So why was the broomstick of choice released that year, the Nimbus 2000? But then, 1992, the Chamber of Secrets sees the release of the 2001 model. But then, where does the model go? I mean, how come Harry never wants to get a Nimbus 2002? In 1993? No, what with the Firebolt? I mean, did the Nimbus company decide to change its brand, or did they go out of business? Maybe the goblins were keeping their gold. Or maybe the Firebolt company came along, or maybe the Nimbus company changed its name to the Firebolt company. I don't know. In the Harry Potter world, where do you have to go to register a business? Did Bertie Bott have to fill in a application form? Or did he just have to prove that he could break even by the end of the fiscal year? Who knows? One last Harry Potter rant before I go. I didn't think that much of the final film. I'm sorry if you thought it was the masterpiece of 2011 cinema. I don't like the way some of the final deaths were shown. I don't like the way Voldemort turned into specks of black dust when he was killed. I don't like the way Bellatrix Lestrange shattered like glass. I don't like the way the 2 fights were interspersed with each other. They should have been done separately and more dramatically. Voldemort's body, specifically, is mentioned in the books as being taken out of the Great Hall. You know, I don't think the film is completely terrible. I like the music, I like some of the sweeping shots. Some of it's, you know, funny, some of the acting's alright, some of the acting is not so good. Yeah, I'm just never going to ever get over the fact that the filmmakers disappointed me by making Voldemort turn into specks of black dust. They sacrificed my personal opinion for the sake of special effects. And no. What do you think? Do you think Voldemort looked good as specks of black dust? He did not. No. No, no, no. Avada Kedavra.